Hi, everyone. It's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And joining me today is Brandy Brooks. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here.
It is such a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to get into everything. So I want to just kick this off with having you introduce yourself to our audience and let us know a little bit about your background and experience.
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name's Brandy Brooks. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Kensington, which is in Montgomery County, Maryland, and I am running for Montgomery County Council at large. I am a renter and community organizer and advocate for housing and environmental justice and racial equity. That's the work that I do actually every day. I'm co-director of a nonprofit consulting firm that does that work with communities all over the country, really centering community voices and racial equity. I'm also a auntie and a sister and a daughter, and someone who loves to dance and sing when she gets the chance.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm also a Montgomery County resident, so
Oh,
I love that. Tell me why you've decided to throw your hat in the ring for the at-large council this year.
yeah, so this is my second time running for a county council at large. I ran for the first time, my first campaign ever in 2018. At the time, was total political unknown. Again, a grassroots organizer, Afro-Latina. And what we were able to do in that campaign was amazing. It was, oh my goodness, it was this 33-person Democratic primary. So it was completely wild.
Wow.
And, at first, I think a lot of folks didn't take my campaign seriously. They're kind of like, okay, I guess people can run. But what they didn't realize is that I came there to organize. I came there to really make sure that the voices of our people around critical issues were actually being heard in our politics and policy. Because as a resident, I wasn't feeling heard and I wasn't seeing myself in our county council. I mean, we have a county that is majority people of color, 40% renters. Nearly a third of our residents were born in countries other than the United States, like yourself.
Yes.
And, and that we weren't seeing that reflected either on the people who are on the council or in the kind of policy decision making that centered our voices. So that's why I run, because I actually believe that we should have decision making power over the things that impact our life.
Certainly, certainly. And tell me about some of these issues that you would love to tackle if elected to this role.
Absolutely. So my key issues, first, we have to deal with the massive affordable housing crisis in our county, which is also, I want to note, not just an affordable housing crisis, but an eviction crisis, a housing insecurity crisis, and a homelessness crisis. We have folks who cannot afford to live here in Montgomery County, this beautiful county with so many amenities, with one of the wealthiest counties in the country, and certainly the wealthiest in the state of Maryland. But the way that we look at housing, it's constantly prioritizing the profits of developers and landlords over ensuring everyone a right to be housed safely and affordably. So we have people who are massively burdened in their rent, people who can't buy homes here. And then we also have folks living in dangerous living conditions. And I just want to, continue to say that my thoughts and prayers are with the folks who live on Littonsville Road, who experienced that terrible building explosion at Friendly Garden Apartments. And this is something that we have seen more than once in Montgomery County just in the last few years. So we really have to be looking at strategies for seriously building affordable housing. Also strategies for seriously addressing the economic disparities in our county. We have a massive gap between the haves and the have-nots, and it is only growing. And the way that we structure our economy right now, we prioritize, again, profits for large corporations. We prioritize tax benefits for wealthy organizations and individuals. We have struggled to really prioritize making sure that everyone has living wages, that they have good worker protections, that we support the right to collectively bargain for every worker in our county, and making sure that we have thousands of small businesses, including so many of them run by people of color and immigrants in this county. And we talk a lot about small businesses, but we don't actually invest in them. We don't actually make sure that the structures that they have to deal with are fair, or that they have access to capital and to space and the other things that they need. And then lastly, we really have to be looking at environmental justice. The threat of climate change, it is an existential threat for our planet, for every community. And we need to make sure that the way that we address that recognizes that environmental concerns are right intertwined with the way that we have allowed the degradation and exploitation of people. They always go hand in hand. And so when we're looking at climate solutions, they have to be just. They have to be about making sure that everyone has access to, whether we're talking about transportation or sustainable waste management, which doesn't sound sexy, but is really important. Or, even access to open space and amenities. We really have to be thinking about this with a strong justice and equity lens.
Yes, certainly, certainly. Tell me, Brandy, what is your favorite thing about Montgomery County?
Oh, wow. So my favorite thing about Montgomery County, and I want to say this very carefully because we tout our diversity without really looking at how we support our diversity. So I don't want to just say our diversity. But what I do love about Montgomery County is that it is this amazing fabric of so many people who have chosen to come to live here, to build their families here, to build their businesses here, to learn here, to work here. I love that we have this whole range of communities, strong urban communities, suburban areas, a beautifully preserved agricultural reserve that lets us have rural and recreational areas. These are treasures. And they're things that one of the reasons I run at large is I want us to think about our county as a whole and how we make sure that we support our whole county to thrive. All of the different people and their different aspirations and needs. Although in some ways, actually, our needs are very similar. There's some really basic things that we all want to do, be able to provide for ourselves and our families, be able to do work that we love with dignity, be able to learn and be supported to grow. So those needs are shared and they manifest in particular ways in different areas. But I really want us to understand that we're a body and no part of our body can be healthy if a part of our body is unhealthy. Bodies don't work that way. Neither do counties and communities. So we have to make sure that we are supporting the health and thriving of every resident and every community.
Certainly, certainly. Tell me, why are you the best choice for voters come election day?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give two reasons. The first one is that I fully believe in democracy. And I'm going to talk about this deeply. It's not just what happens at the voting booth, it's what happens every single day in terms of how we participate in our own governance. As I mentioned, this is the kind of work that I do with communities and public agencies around the country to make sure that our voices are heard in developing public policy. And that's what I want to bring to the county, because I believe that democracy and governance is every day, and that we have a responsibility as public leaders to make sure that those pathways for engagement are clear and are meaningful, and that people are truly supported. And we're not just saying, well, if you didn't show up because we didn't address any of the barriers to your showing up, then I guess you don't care. We're just going to make policy that runs over. And the second reason is I think you gotta look at the record. All of the folks who are running for county council have some record of public leadership. Some of them have been elected officials, some of us have led in other ways, but you have to look at, did we stand up for the things that we say are important to us? Have we been out there not just when it's easy, but when it's hard and when you had to lead on pressing an issue forward for our communities? Are we listening to and in relationship with the people who are experiencing the most marginalization in our communities? Or are we listening to and in relationship with the people who have always held power and privilege? And continuing to widen those gaps and those injustices. We have to look at how people have shown up and then look to that leadership. Because look, we're politicians. We're going to say a lot of things. We know the buzzwords, but it's about what we've done with our public leadership.
Certainly, certainly. And so when does voting begin for the Montgomery County Council?
Yeah, so the primary day, and this is really important. Thank you for letting me talk about this.
Yeah.
The key thing in Montgomery County is the primary election. A lot of us are used to thinking about elections as happening in November, but we have a June primary that is very important. Montgomery County is a heavily Democratic county, so that's the place where we have voter choice. And that primary election is on June 28th. Early voting for the primary will start on June 15th. And folks in our county, you will have already received, if you're a registered voter, You will have already received in the mail an application to get your mail-in ballot. If you want to use a mail-in ballot, please return that application to the Board of Elections and make sure that you can get your ballot and use that. So we really want folks to be engaged around this primary, especially our areas of our community in the East County and Up County, where we have heavy bases of Democratic voters, also heavy bases of people of color who are traditionally under-engaged and really ignored when it comes to voter outreach. And we are committed to making sure that folks in those communities get information about the primary and feel really excited about engaging in their democracy.
Certainly, certainly. And so those who are watching, if you want to make sure that you're registered to vote, you want to check your voter registration status, go to headcount.org. And please get this done before June, because in this area, that's when the primaries are. So once again, you can go to headcount.org to check your status, pledge to vote, and register to vote.
Absolutely. And I do want to just add a quick note. Maryland has closed primaries, so you have to be a Democrat to vote in the Democratic primary. So, even if you're not registered as Democrat currently, if you want to be able to vote in the primary, you will need to switch your registration.
Certainly, certainly. Before I let you go, Brandy, how can people learn more about you, learn more about your campaign, follow you, keep up with what you're doing, and support your campaign?
Absolutely. So I encourage you to go to on the web. It's brandyformontgomery.com. That's BRANDY, the number 4, Montgomery.com. That's where you can read all the news about us, see our latest updates, find our great endorsements. We just got endorsed by the Montgomery County Education Association this past week, which is wonderful. Our teachers union. We've also been endorsed by CASA in Action, an amazing immigrant rights group, and the Metro DC Democratic Socialists of America. It's where you can find the place to volunteer, and it's also where you can donate. And I just want to remind folks, if we are excited about seeing a change in the culture and leadership in our politics, we have to show up and organize ourselves. The folks who don't want us to be thriving, they're not hesitant about organizing their power. They're not hesitant about organizing our money. So we have to be as committed as they are to organizing our power in support of the kind of leadership that we want to see in our elected offices in our jurisdiction and across the country.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so for everyone watching, those links will be in the description below, so you can go ahead and check them out and support Brandy Brooks and the campaign in any way you can. Thank you so much for joining me today, Brandy. It has been such a pleasure getting to talk with you and learning more about your campaign. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Find us on Brandy for Moco on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's been such a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks so much to our viewers. Please follow Team Racine Productions at Team Racine on all forms of social media. Like, comment, and subscribe. But most of all, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.